Good morning to you all here this morning. It is back to school for a lot of school districts, at least for remote online learning. That also includes the state's largest district, Seattle. I spoke exclusively with Seattle Superintendent Denise Juneau about how things are going and why it is too early to call this a lost year. Here's what she said.
I think that we can actually maintain some sort of learning and some structure with families. Our big thing is that we want to make sure that families have the supports they need to set up schedules at home, to make sure that they're touching base with their teachers, to make sure that some sort of learning is happening.
This is all in consultation with the state superintendent's office. Denise Juneau says teachers have been reaching out to parents, prepping everybody for today for these new at-home lesson plans moving forward. A big focus is on equity and students who have not been able to log in and do remote learning like many other students. Juneau says focusing on the high school seniors is a huge priority.
We know this is a huge milestone for them, and so we want to make sure that they stay on track. So we are reviewing the technology that we've had going out to seniors. We are making sure that they're all going to have technology and working with teachers and counselors to deliver instruction that way. And so it will flow down from that point.
Not all schools in the area have the same approach to remote learning. Everyone's different. On king5.com, we have a list of remote learning resources for the 10 largest school districts in our area. We can send it right to your phone if you want. Text the word school to 206-448-4545. Meme?
April 1st is just a couple of days away, and that means rent payment is due. Many people are out of a job right now and wondering if and how they need to pay rent. King 5's Kayla Lafferty joins us now to explain what the options are for people. Kayla?
Hey, good morning. So if you live in Seattle or anywhere in the state outside of city limits, there are some differences in what to do if you can't make your rent payment. Starting off with Seattle residents, on March 3rd, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan enacted a 60-day moratorium on rent. So if you live in the city, you cannot be evicted if you do not pay rent for April and even into May. This also protects you from having to pay late fees. As for the state, it's a little bit different. Governor Jay Inslee's declaration only covers not paying rent. This declaration does not protect you from late fees, and it does end on April 17th. Now, under all of this, you're only protected from eviction based on the status of your rent. So you could still be evicted for committing a crime, putting yourself, other tenants, or property in danger. Now, for those of you worrying about making a mortgage payment, the state says to get in touch with your lender so they can work with you on waiving late fees or setting up a payment plan. Now, whether you live in Seattle or anywhere else in the state, officials do encourage you to get in contact with your landlord or your lender so they can work on a plan with you and tell you your options. Live in Seattle, Kayla Lafferty, King 5 News.
Thank you, Kayla. If you are a small business owner, you've probably been paying close attention to the $2 trillion stimulus bill. Small businesses can get loans to help them through this tough time, but as Michelle Lee reports, those loans could be forgiven.
We've heard small business owners say they don't need any more loans. They don't need debt upon debt. But when you take a look at the stimulus bill, they need to understand that these loans could essentially become grants. Remember, this is all about getting cash to businesses and people so they can keep afloat and avoid defaulting. We talked to UW professor Thomas Gilbert, and he says he thinks this part of the stimulus is well designed because if a business owner can keep their workers on the payroll through the end of the year, the loans will be forgiven. So as long as the loan is used to pay rent, to stay in your shop, or pay people, the government will basically take over your payroll and fixed costs for roughly up to 2.5 months.
I think it's all a story of incentives. If you immediately give cash to just everybody, then this is literally just a giant bailout. And then once you just give cash, then there's no incentives, right? I can go I can pay myself.
Economists say 2 months is being used as a reference because China was in total lockdown for about 2 months. And if we can trust the numbers out of China, they say, then the hope is that we could contain the virus and get back to work by June. Of course, there still is some concern that the loans will not come out quick enough. And that is something that economists worry about, especially since every day matters for a lot of small business owners. Back to you.
All right, Michelle Lee with some great tips there. It has been more than a month now since the first reported coronavirus death in the United States. It happened here in Washington state. Since then, there have been more than 141,000 cases nationwide, including 2,300 deaths. Here in Washington state, there are 195 deaths that we know of among almost 4,900 confirmed cases. Important to note still that 92% of all the coronavirus tests have come back negative. Just days after saying he wanted much of the country to reopen by Easter, President Trump reversing course a little bit now this weekend, saying he wants to extend the social distancing guidelines through the end of April. Tracy Potts has an update.
President Trump is abandoning his plan to get the economy going again by Easter and extending guidance to practice social distancing until April 30th.
The better you do, the faster this whole nightmare will end.
The U.S. death toll from the coronavirus doubled in 2 days. The death rate isn't expected to peak for 2 more weeks.
If we do things together well, almost perfectly, we could get in the range of 100,000 to 200,000 fatalities. We don't even want to see that.
More than half the cases are coming from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. So the CDC issued a 14-day travel advisory asking residents in those states to stay home.
This is not a lockdown. It is a travel advisory.
President Trump's in a battle with some governors accusing states of hoarding supplies.
They are holding ventilators. They don't want to let them up.
While states accuse him of playing politics, delivering masks and respirators more slowly to states run by Democrats.
This is not something that we should be fighting each other on.
The federal government promises help will come quickly since Congress approved $2 trillion to fight the virus. It's money desperately needed with jobless claims soaring and the economy in standstill. 2 of the country's largest insurers, Cigna and Humana, have said their patients who come down with the coronavirus won't pay a dime for treatment. No copays, no co-insurance, no bills. And President Trump is urging other insurance companies to do the same. Tracy Potts, NBC News.
The Summer Olympics now has a new date. The Associated Press reports the games have been rescheduled for July 23rd to August 8th, 2021. That's almost a year after the games were supposed to start. Last week, the Olympics were postponed because of the coronavirus pandemic. Organizers have said the cost of rescheduling the games will be massive. Reports out of Tokyo estimate billions of dollars. Several shops and a large mall reopened today in Wuhan, China. Shops in the city at the center of the worldwide coronavirus pandemic opened after being shut down for more than 2 months. Visitors lined up about 5 feet apart outside stores, and many of the shops have limits on how many people can enter at one time. Shoppers also have their temperatures taken for signs of fever, and they also have to show a green mobile phone code, which shows they have a clean bill of health. Trains are also running again in that city. Few people decided to ride public transportation yesterday, which has only partially resumed service. Wuhan has reported only 1 new case of COVID-19 in the last 11 days. Remember, they were on lockdown for 2 months. Yeah. So things finally getting back up and running there with precautions, obviously, but some signs of good
news too.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. To see this happening in China and South Korea, flattening the curve. We can get there, just got to keep pushing. Thanks, Meme.